Hey, welcome back to the DVD Bunker. I'm Brian. This is Matt.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, great.
Are you excited?
I'm pumped.
We got a good one today. I feel like, we've done some episodes that we've varied on the scale of, like, how close to the actual premise of the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like, sometimes it's a little off, sometimes something I'm a little more familiar with and you haven't seen.
Yeah.
This is, like, a really good representation today. Like, this is a movie that I bought basically because I just love John Goodman.
Yeah.
My wife and I are huge Roseanne fans.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously he's gone on to do some great stuff. But this is that, like, every sitcom star, especially like in the 90s, when their sitcom got really big, they always did that first movie.
Yeah, this is that, huh?
This is that for John Goodman. And, like, if you remember, Roseanne had, like, She-Devil came out right around the same time. This was, like, probably, like, after the first or second season of Roseanne got really big, the summer in between, they went and did some movies. And, like, a lot of sitcom stars do that, and they vary, like, in success from, like, George Clooney to the entire cast of Friends.
Most other television actors that do the same thing.
And I would say most other. But I think that, like, this is going to be a good one. So if you don't know, if you can't see here, this is King Ralph we're talking about. 1991, starring John Goodman. Basic premise is a royal dies.
Yeah.
He's got no living heirs. They track down Ralph. Ralph is just a blue-collar slob.
Dan Connor.
Yeah. But I don't think he has a family. I think he's a single Dan Connor.
This is after the family died. It's reverse Roseanne season 7.
Reverse ruining ending of Roseanne, where it all ends up being a stupid story.
We can't ever talk about John Goodman without hating on that last season of Roseanne a little bit.
You're like, John Goodman finally won the Oscar for his portrayal. But remember that shitty last season of Roseanne? God damn, that sucked. That'll be part of his Oscar speech. And I agree, everybody. Thank you for this. And that last season was shit, guys. Okay, thank you. Good night. I don't really, like I said, this one really fits the premise of the show because I really don't remember much about it.
That's all.
He's a blue-collar slob. I don't remember. I probably watched it once after we bought it, and I don't remember thinking it was great. But like I said, I kind of lumped it in with that, everybody does their one. And I have other John Goodman to enjoy. I have The Babe.
Yeah, there's way better. Yeah, I'm sure there's much better. But this is also what I think the DVD Bunker's about, is just people dialing it in for those movies that we love them in now. Right. Also, this might be when America was at one of its peak times of loving the British royalty. So we had the...
early 90s. So this is like...
We had Princess Diana.
This is before Di and Charles split up.
Yeah,
so like this is when it's all still good. And you have the boys, and so it's like you have the beautiful, picturesque royal family.
Absolutely. So
America definitely goes through like waves of what countries we're interested in. Because we had that like Australia thing for a bit, and then and it came back with Lord of the Rings and New Zealand. Everybody was like, "Oh, hey, New Zealand's kind of near Australia," so they just lump them in together. They kind of bring that back for a minute. So maybe this was like one of our peak. Hey, Britain's a thing. Like, remember that? But I don't really have a lot to say about it. I'm excited to watch it again. I did want to talk about the cast besides Goodman a little bit. So we got one of my favorite things, which is British actors slumming it for a paycheck.
Absolutely.
Basically what gave us the entire Harry Potter cast. So you got John Hurt and the other was Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole, yeah.
And I assume they're playing either... I'm going to go out on a limb here. Let's make some speculations now that I think about it.
Okay.
This could be interesting. I think that they will both be involved in like bringing him over and finding him and bringing him and training him to be the king.
Yeah. But
one of them will secretly be bad and wants him to fail so they can take over the kingdom. That's what I'm going out on a limb. That's like my prediction. I think that's about it. There is one more thing though I want to touch on.
Okay.
And this has nothing to do with the film.
Okay.
When we did,
just where you berate me for your own pleasure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk about that. I think you're a bad person. I think you need to get your shit together, get your life on track, man. Look at your hair. What's wrong with you?
This beard. This is the first time I think I may have left the house since the last time we did this. So you're rightful in
I
your
just woke Mag up.
criticisms.
Matt was sleeping in the corner of the bunker in here on a pile of hay. He brought the hay in himself.
We're gonna do another episode. Get up.
Get up, it's time.
What time is it? It's time to work.
Hook up these cords. No, we talked about, in one of the previous episodes, we talked about the cardboard DVD case, the old DVD case. This is a big gripe. This is a DVD case, has these little locking tabs on them.
Why?
What was
It's loss
ever...
prevention. It's got to be some sort of loss prevention.
But they're already so locked up at the store. Like, why when you get them home would you need these? I mean, are they meant to just be broken off and ignored? I've never done that, but they are horrible. I hate them. To this day, every time I go to open a DVD that has one of these on it, I'm mad. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, never have, like, broken the seal and just been like, no, fucking ripped them off. Like, nope. I got to abide by the law of the DVD case, man. This is like, you know, respect the sanctity of the DVD. You got to keep it safe.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
And a small child worked very hard to make that DVD
Well,
case.
and my small child worked very hard to try to get into every DVD case that didn't have those things on it. So to be fair, they
Child
serve a
safety at
purpose.
the
They
least
serve a purpose,
there.
I guess. So, yeah, that's my last thing I want to complain about before we start watching King Ralph. So anything else from you, Matt?
No, that sounds good. Let's go watch
Let's
King
do it.
Ralph.
King Ralph. All right, so we've returned from watching King Ralph. We're older and wiser.
More Kingsley than,
That's right.
than we've ever
learned.
been.
Oh man, we learned so many different things. I think we'll get into all the different montages of fancy activities that we saw. So, I guess to dive right in, I was impressed right at the very beginning. Real England.
Yeah.
Not a fake fictional like movie.
Yeah, weird
kingdom,
country.
Right.
Yeah.
Like where and it was where you would know it was supposed to be England, but it clearly they made it the country.
Yeah.
This is flat out England.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? Lots of real English locations. It looked like, and or at least great sets if they weren't real locations. I mean, wherever they.
Pretty sure, they shot this in London. And a lot of real English people too.
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
super English.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can use that. We can talk about my predictions because our English actors, Peter OToole and John Hurt. I was pretty close.
Yeah.
Peter OToole was the mentor character.
Yeah.
And brings him in. They butt heads, but he helps him kind of progress.
He's a good guy.
There's no real relationship with John Hurt outside of he's just a straight up sleazy bad guy.
Yeah, he doesn't really do anything too horrible. I mean, his big crime is taking pictures and sending invitations.
It's real low. It's real. Like, well, first of all, they give him the great name Percival Graves, right? Percival. So that's good. And his whole thing is once they bring Ralph over. Oh, I guess we should say. The whole royal family gets killed. Final Destination
electrocuted.
style.
No one escapes though.
Electrocuted during a group picture.
Yeah.
It's like the only time they make special mention that this is the only time the family's been together in like years. They get them all there, and it's like they get electrocuted. So it's like a Final Destination, and all the royals get wiped out.
Everybody dies.
They filter through the books. There's research done of all these different bloodlines, and they find Ralph.
Yeah.
Bring him over.
Yeah.
Talk him into it, why would you need talked into it? He's a lounge singer who's about to get replaced by a chimp. And then they don't even show you what the chimp his act is. He's like a biggest lounge singer who's about to get fired and replaced by a chimpanzee. But they still have to talk him into it for some reason, so he comes over, and then Percival Graves is John Hurt, and basically
He's next in line for the throne.
He thinks he's next in line. He thinks his
he's got
family,
a good claim.
If all the what they call them, the Wyndhams. They don't call them the Windsors. It's the Wyndhams.
Yeah.
But basically, Ralph is the last Wyndham, and if he was gone, his family would be the next in line, and that would be like his. So he's a usurper. That's basically his big thing.
Yeah, but
he's just a sleazy dude. He has a little pencil-thin John Waters mustache to accentuate how sleazy he is.
But I gotta say, after watching a lot of Game of Thrones, it's hard. He's not willing to go to the lengths that you need to. Just taking pictures of people making out and sending fake invitations is not going to get you the Iron Throne.
Not going to cut it in Westeros,
no,
right?
It's not. You got no. Yeah, he doesn't even threaten to murder
anybody. You got to bang your sister and then push her out a window.
It's close.
Not so bad.
But yeah, and then he just, but essentially, then he just becomes king. He's kind of
right, and they're kind of, well, we get into the first of our, I think what I counted at no less than 5, like learning how to be fancy montages. That's what I was talking about a little bit before. There are so many like where you, and it's. To be fair, some of them pertain to different situations. Like, there's times in the movie where part of the montage is him, like, getting ready to meet a foreign dignitary or something like that. But there's, like, him learning cricket, and then Babe Ruthing a cricket ball through a window. There's him learning the tea service, and, I'm fumbling, and I'm a big guy, and the tea set is little, and all that. So there's that. Then there's like more
the
montage.
Crown stuff.
Well, there's the stuff with the crown, and then there's like the montage that's kind of like in the middle where he's kind of making the castle his own, like the kid from Blank Check, and he's just like, and he's
all
doing
picking
all
out
this,
clothes
so it's like part
and stuff.
him learning, but it's also part the people around him learning to like, his wacky ways, and now he's got a bowling alley in here and a jukebox, and so but like seriously,
the worst bowling alley ever constructed, by the way, where there's no gutters. If you roll the ball down and you don't get it straight ahead,
it goes off.
There's priceless antiques on the floor all around, ready. This, like, I guarantee this is one of that one guy's John Hurst gags. He's like, when you build the bowling alley, put all the priceless shit on the floor.
Yeah, he's like, this will help us get him to. And I wrote this. I made sure to note this. Abdicate. That's what they keep saying. They want to abdicate the throne, which I couldn't tell how he was pronouncing it because he has an accent and everything. I had to look it up.
Yeah, ABD. So it's
abdicate.
Yeah. Or you give up the throne.
So, yeah, Ralph's learning to be a king, and he gets a little overwhelmed, so he escapes, and where does he go? A strip club, because of Merca, you know?
It's an American-themed strip club.
It's like an American-themed burlesque show.
Which, when I think of strip clubs, honestly, anywhere in the world, they're all American-themed to me. They're, like, if you're in a real strip club...
The red light district in Amsterdam is American-themed. So, yeah, and, you know, and of course, as, again, I predicted kind of half right, he meets with the king of Zimbabwe, or maybe it's Zambezi. It's like a made-up version. And he kind of half has to be fancy, but also use his Ralph kind of like on-the-fly craziness to like win over the guy.
Yeah, he just kind of plays the card that I'm going to just party with this guy. We'll have some beers and work it out. They have the best dart throwing. And they play little darts.
They're playing darts, and then they like, I don't know, is that racist? I guess he's from Africa, so it's not a big deal, but is that like...
I didn't even think of that he's actually technically throwing a spear.
The game that I'm best at is throwing a spear, you know? So, but it's a good scene. It's not I think it's done with, you know, I think it's done tactfully.
Yeah, that's true.
The guy's not a stereotype or anything. Like, he plays the king, but he's not like, he doesn't have a funky accent. He just talks pretty much, you know.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, he's got an appropriate amount
Now that you've planted that seed, I think he's pretty offensive all around. Don't worry, they become friends and it's nice.
Yeah, but you kind of get the impression it's like a little bit of what he's learned to be king, but also a little bit of what's like, you know, of the real Ralph, kind of the mixture. And that works for him. But at the same time, Miranda kind of partly gets exposed. Some pictures get taken, but you don't really see. There starts to be, and so they kind of like won't let him see her.
Yeah.
And they got him trapped in the castle, and he's getting kind of stir crazy. So he breaks out and goes to see her, and so then they get pictures of them full on like making out.
Yeah, because they have a nice moment.
Right, they have a nice moment together, and it's genuine. She actually saves him from the photographer at the Burger King.
Yeah, remember? Which he gets mobbed at. Which that probably paid for half the movie.
That's
the whole
true.
Burger King tie-in. I bet you they were even doing deals at Burger King that had to do with King Ralph or
I'll
something.
tell you what I really liked was seeing old style Burger King.
Oh,
like,
yeah, with the
old
crowns.
Old graphics and old like all the old logos and like the striped shirts and I was just like, took me back a little bit. Took me back a little bit.
Yeah, it was a good
But
one.
yeah, it was genuine. They had a genuine moment, but the guy with the camera still catches it, and then, so even though she kind of has a change of heart and gives John Hurt his money back, it's too late.
The next day he's
Genie's
already
out
got
of the
what
bottle.
he needs.
He's got what he needs. So
his careful plan is coming together.
So then, at 53 minutes into the movie, we're introduced into another side plot about the dignitaries from Finland now are going to come. The king and his daughter, and Ralph is supposed to marry his daughter. This is the first we're hearing of it, an hour into the movie. First time this is ever being brought
you're going to
up.
marry somebody. You don't get to
Oh,
pick.
by the way, you're going to marry somebody. And we have another similar type thing where the dignitaries show up. The princess ends up having a funny voice.
Yeah, very deep.
Very deep tuba. And, you know, in classic, like, where you think she's going to be. I mean, she is fancy, but she's also, like, hypersexualized and kind of coming on real strong to Ralph and stuff.
She explains the whole situation to him, but then lets him know, you know,
Explains
this is...
that she doesn't really love him, but that she is attracted to him and that it's a good match. You know, she's obviously very business-minded
she's
about
ready.
the whole thing.
I feel like she
propositions
to have sex with him in that moment, and they get caught. So she's ready.
I mean, it might have happened because she was coming in hot.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. She was coming in hot.
Which I think would have been a good time for another montage where it just is just King Ralph just slaying through bitches from different countries. Like she's just the first of many girls.
Instead of them getting married, it just gives him the idea to bang princesses from all countries.
And you keep hearing that voice from the Zambezi's president where he's just like, I do what I want. I'm the king.
Because he does have that moment where he's like, did they tell you who to marry? He's like, no, of course not.
I'm the king.
I'm the king.
Just show him just constantly plowing these princesses, wearing different dresses, different ethnicities.
You got all these kings who like want to like, you know, get a good relationship going with England, and they keep bringing their daughters in, and he's just like slaying tail from.
That might have been. And he keeps getting better
movie.
every time he meets him. He's like, "Oh, how you doing, Mr. President?"
He becomes a better ambassador for his country. Meanwhile, he's just laying out pelt left and right.
That would have been actually. That's two of my options for what could have been a better movie. One is just instead of Dan Connor, this is Walter Sobchak that they bring over as the king. You have a whole different set of issues in that situation.
So the one he doesn't get with the Vietnamese princess. That's what you're saying.
No, and he loses control. I would say fairly quickly with abuse of power.
We've got the kind of like erotic thriller.
I like you could even do a comedy where he's just a ladies' man.
I
just
like that. Sure, I would get into that. I would watch that. So, in this meeting with the Finnish royals, he tries his whole Ralph thing. He's kind of encouraged to do it by John Hurt. John Hurt's like, hey, if things get too stuffy, let loose with that. Be yourself. Let loose, knowing that he's setting him up for a fall. And he does. He performs Good Golly Miss Molly, which wasn't Great Balls of Fire, the more obvious. Like, wouldn't that have been the better choice? He's performing it like he's doing Great Balls of Fire.
But I bet it was a licensing thing, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, why not do Great Balls of Fire?
Is that around the time Great Balls came out?
When they actually did the movie where that could have been. Right? It could have been early. I bet it is early 90s. You're right. So they're like, we can't give you any rights to this movie.
Well, and I will say I do appreciate that John Goodman did his own singing. Little pre-Blues Brothers 2000 singing in this one.
I thought it was good, and you predicted the way it would go, but it didn't really go. I was hoping that they would start to get into it, but everybody hated it. I thought it was a great musical number. The band was into it.
But I actually like that part of it, because that like subverted the cliche would have been to have the whole party get into it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they did a little bit with the Zambezi guy, the Zambezi president. This one, they played it like it would happen in real life, where all these stuffy dignitaries are like, and they kind of give an uncomfortable clap. Yeah. I did like how much the band got into it, like the horn section of this like stuffy party band who was clearly just playing like classical music, all of a sudden became like the Blues Brothers band. You know, like they stand up.
Yeah, they were moved out of their seats, and they were really into it. And I thought that made it great, but apparently the other people in that room, except for his girlfriend who was there, makes that fake invitation.
She gets the fake invitation from John Hurt. She shows up. She's not supposed to be there. And, of course, he's doing his, like, crazy dance. He tries to get the princess into it.
Does not shame her.
She shuts him down.
Yeah.
She shuts him down. She's all, and then he sees the girl, and they get into it, and they dance.
And I really thought that everyone was going to start dancing, but no.
And then it goes out, and even the news
and it becomes
like,
a controversy.
It's a controversy. It's like a big flop, and he, like, embarrassed the country.
The British
and all
let
that.
me down on that one, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like that country's responsible for so much great singing and dancing, and they're gonna just scoff at a king that plays music. Anyway.
So John Hurt's got everything in place. You know, he's done all his little schemes, and basically everybody's pissed at Ralph. And
he says
but
retire.
Simultaneously, Peter O'Toole's putting things together. He's figuring out what's going on with John Hurt, but also Ralph is figuring some things out too. He's putting some things together. He's remembering, and he figures out that there was actually somebody else in line for the throne, and it was Peter O'Toole.
Yep, he gets the guy from Harry Potter
like
to tell him.
The same pedigree.
Yep. Just a different area of
the way
whatever.
It came down as Ralph, and he didn't want to do it because he couldn't have an heir. He was too old or whatever, and he was just a coward basically. He just didn't want to rule.
Which was contrary to what he said to Ralph. He wanted to quit, and he's like, "No, you need to stand up. This is just another test that you're gonna fail." And it turns out he was a hypocrite that whole time. But then everything unravels, of course, in good order, and we find out that
Ralph
he
goes to give
catches
his big speech at Parliament, and he comes, and of course he goes in like a boss, and he has everything, and he like lays out a whole like economic plan and a deal he made with his MBZ that's going to give all these jobs. So you see Miranda's poor family, brother and dad, all their faces light up when they talk about the 3 new factories. They're like, I get to slave away in a factory? Yeah.
The look on the wife's face was as if she was a prostitute that was no longer going to have to do that to keep the family afloat. Like the way she lit up at the thought of that factory was just so amazing. She's like, oh yeah, she's tearing up. Oh my goodness.
That's a dark
Her life was changed. We might finally get out of this camp and start living with normal folk. Watch that part of the movie. This place they live in is horrible.
So yeah, he gives his speech at Parliament, and he lays out his economic plan, and they bust John Hurt. But yeah, like you said, it was a really pretty benign plan. It's like he
covers his tracks horribly.
He doesn't even get arrested. They just kind of walk him out. Some guys come in and just escort him out.
He's just out for that meeting, probably. It's like you just gotta go till next. He lists off some rule that he broke, some anti-treason rule or something dumb, interfering with the king, but it just sounded like you probably get a fine or something.
Right, exactly. It was clearly something, nothing that would hold up. Like, he's not gonna do any time. He's gonna, maybe get a slap on the wrist, but yeah. But anyway, so it's resolved regardless, and John Goodman does advocate his title to Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole becomes the new king. He makes Ralph a duke.
Duke of Earl.
Yep, the Duke of Earl, and then that's exactly how the movie ends. He's performing in his giant mansion, Duke of Earl.
Dressed in
full, even though he's recording in his house, he's not performing he's dressed in full costume, and he has the worst named backup singers, the Dukettes. That sounds like 3 piles of shit. That is fucking terrible.
What? Like, nobody said anything to him like, come on, man.
You're American, you know the Duke.
Yeah.
I could see a British guy actually thinking that wasn't that bad, but you should know better. You wear a Chicago Cubs hat and a Green Bay Packers jacket. You're America wrapped up in a shirt and a t-shirt. All right, so that's pretty much a recap of the basic plot and kind of the highs and lows. So did you have any favorite moments or favorite little things that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I liked I liked the musical number a lot. I really liked the song. I liked the way the band got into it and stuff like that. And I thought John Goodman was really good. I thought the surrounding cast, everybody did a really funny job, but they were just being really British, which I'm guessing is who they are in real life.
All they had to do was act super British around John Goodman.
Yeah, you pick a stuffy-looking British man and ask them to play a stuffy-looking British man, you're going to probably be all right.
They did it well, though. They did it well.
And I thought John Goodman was good, although you did tell me that who was it you said? Bill Murray was initially?
This was written, it was written with Bill Murray.
And I kind of watched it thinking that, and I thought he probably would have done a better job. I would have went the route of Kurt Russell. I would have liked to see Kurt Russell
a really good one.
Just sleeveless shirts and things like that.
And that's a different movie, but it's better. Yeah. But no, to go back to what my favorite thing was the socially conscious punk rock.
Yes.
And like I was saying, you see him at first at the funeral for the royals, and the ones, kind of like, don't we hate the monarchy? And the other one's like, oh, have some national pride. Like, come on. You can't be. And then, you see them throughout the movie, and then more towards the end, but they're always you see, they're doing the thing that I've only ever seen happen in movies where you watch TV through the front window of a store of some kind.
A crowd of people.
But they're like crowded outside a store watching his speech at Parliament and like reacting like, yeah.
How do they know when all these Parliament sessions and all this news is going to be happening? It seems like news is very timely, and they're just like, they just always hanging outside the store, or they just walk by. I don't know. I want to know what those kids are up to. They're just there.
The word on the street.
If I was the proprietor of that business, I
would not want them hanging out front.
Wow, they are actually some nice
first
people.
Of all, I would be like, why are there punk rock kids hanging out in front in 1991? That's a very American thing to be like. You remember how like punk started in the 70s in England? Well, there's probably still some punk rock. Boy George is still out there.
That would be like
right?
disco.
Like,
if you were in America and you just saw people dressed up like disco people in the early 90s, just in front of us.
Big aviators and like a jumpsuit.
The king looks far out. Just be so great.
That actually is probably a thing you would see now. People dress,
Me specifically.
No, if I ever wear, it won't be a jumpsuit. It would be a tracksuit, like Soprano style.
That'd be
like,
cool.
Yeah, I would get down with that.
Just a single chain hanging down.
That's right.
Let
No
people know your
undershirt.
business.
No undershirt.
More than 2 rings.
Definitely.
On your hand.
Several rings.
Some that spell out stuff across multiple rings. They couldn't fit all that message onto one ring.
So, do we have any specific like dislikes? Anything that was like a flat out negative?
Yeah, I just think John Goodman's character was kind of a waste of John Goodman. Although when I think to all the things I love John Goodman, it's usually him playing some sort of psychopath type character. So I don't think that would work here.
This was his paycheck movie. This was his like, I'm going to try to be a leading man. But he also had Barton Fink come out this year. So he did his Coen Brothers thing too.
Yeah.
He was already well. I mean, this is after Raising Arizona, so he already would have been like well into the Coen Brothers thing. But still, so he kept it. He knew his roots, and he did do some interview around the time where he was like not claiming to be a leading man. He was like, no, I'm still very much a character actor in this role. But this was the like first time his name ever appeared above the title in a movie. First time he was ever a lead in anything. So I mean, like we said, sitcom stars usually get there. If your show does well enough, you're usually gonna get a crack at a movie.
Yeah, and I just don't think they gave him a lot.
Results.
They didn't give him a lot to work with, like you say.
No.
He doesn't have much in the way of anything other than being like, "Hey, I'm American."
Right, and that's my big complaint too. It's like everything's just real kind of bland and milquetoast. There's not really too much here. It's real basic. You got even. We've been saying that like it feels like it was written around the jokes. Even they're not super strong. No. It's not like the stuff that he's doing is so funny. All the interactions, all the little trying to be fancy. It's not. He's not breaking any new ground. Real basic fish out of water stuff. I tell you what, the most impressive thing about the movie to me is kind of like the sets and the look of it. Everything looked very authentic. Like everything looked very like real. I mean, I'm sure they're fancy sets. I'm sure they didn't shoot in the castles or anything, but they probably found locations that were close and set dressed them the right way.
Absolutely.
And stuff looks really good. I thought that part of it looked really convincing.
Everything looked like it was in a palace.
Absolutely.
It was in the places they were in, and
that all looked real solid. But as far as like what's actually the content of the movie.
Yeah. So I thought the movie was good, except for the content of the movie.
Except for the performances. Now, to be fair, we talked about John Goodman's not bad in it.
No one's bad at all.
He's John Goodman, and he's doing a great, lovable Dan Connor kind of thing. But like, there's just not much there. The character doesn't grow at all. Like, he's basically because it's not like you get the impression at the beginning. That's why I said if at the beginning he'd have been a little more Uncle Buck, a little more seedy. He'd had a little more place to go, but he already seems like a pretty nice guy.
Yeah, he's pretty lovable.
He seems pretty good right off the bat. There's not really a lot of that to change. It's more just like the kind of general Americanization of him that they don't like. It's not like he's super over the top with the crassness either. It's not like he's constantly spitting and scratching himself or anything like that. He's just a very, like I said, he wears a Green Bay Packers jacket. That's about the most offensive thing he's done.
That is like where they're the most horrified when he walks in dressed like an American.
He's got a Skid Row t-shirt on. He's got a lot of layers in that, I was noticing.
They really were.
I
bet they spent a lot of time playing in that whole outfit.
It's the same outfit he wears when he leaves.
Yeah, it's his favorite. It's his go-to.
Yeah, he goes back to it. He goes back to it in the end, full circle. It's not the opposite of character development. Right back where he started.
Speaking of characters, though, did you have any buddy for old character corner today?
I'll tell you, I like that segue.
with Edge.
Boom! Look at that, co-host. That's why. If anybody's been wondering, that is why.
And you, I'm sure you have.
All you people have been tweeting me. Stop tweeting me. Why did you get this guy? What is his problem? Does he have a disease?
Yeah, yes, I do actually. But we're not going to get into that. Yeah,
that's really rude, man. No, I'll tell you what. A very pleasant surprise. I noticed he stepped off the train. The King of Finland, the father of the deep-voiced princess, was it Donovan from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? The undercover spoiler alert for an old movie. The guy who turns out to be a bad guy.
Yeah, like turns a secret Nazi.
Secret Nazi. You don't get chooses poorly
again. He's totally eats it.
Yep. But it was just one of those things. As soon as he stepped off, I was like, "Oh, is that the dude from Last Crusade?"
Yeah, but it was
that's
like
what character corner's all about, as far as I'm concerned. When that guy pops up and you instantly know him from something, but you do not know his name. That was me. Oh, I want to shout him out by name. Julian Glover.
Julian Glover
played Donovan in Last Crusade, Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, and he was the Finnish king.
Yeah, kind of uptight guy. Didn't have a big. His name. Say his name again. Julian Glover. His name sounds like a name of a bad guy too. Like if you met Julian Glover, you're like, oh, this guy's totally gonna be the bad guy.
Oh, he's related to Hans Gruber, right?
Yeah, right, like a cousin. That's perfect. I really liked the guy. He plays Harry Potter's uncle. I think his name is Richard Griffiths, but he's kind of one of the secretaries or whatever they call him.
He's the guy who likes Ralph the most.
Yeah, he loves the changes that he brings.
Even when Ralph brings in the drum set, he's on the drums.
Yeah. He's in there playing.
I was talking about Blank Check. He's like the limo driver from Blank Check, right?
He wants to
buddies up with
fun.
the guy.
Absolutely.
He's just all about. He likes the way Ralph does business.
So, Brian, you've purchased this DVD probably 10 plus years ago.
Oh, this is the hard part of today's show.
And I don't know what you paid for it. Maybe you've probably forgotten too. But what do you think? That's what we're here to decide. Is this a goodbye, or is this the first adios of the DVD bunker? A goodbye?
Yeah, man, it's rough. With Stay Tuned, when we had problems with it, what saved it was that we only have so much John Ritter in the world. There's only so many John Ritter performances. You aren't getting any new ones. John Goodman, on the other hand, has been downright prolific.
Yeah.
He is only making more content, and it's only getting better.
It's getting better,
He's in he's brilliant in Coen Brothers movies. He was in back-to-back Oscar Best Picture winners. He was in The Artist, and he was in Argo, back-to-back years.
And he's good in these movies. He's part of the reason why they win.
Like, he doesn't get nominated, but that's only because, that's an oversight, which I'm, fingers crossed, this year, I could see him. It came out a little early in the year, but man, 10 Cloverfield Lane was so good, and he was so good in it. And, so good at not rescinding into being Dan Connor. He's never lovable in 10 Cloverfield Lane. I was always waiting for him to be kind of likable, but even at the times when he's being nice, he's a little off-putting. And that's why, man, he was so good in that. I'll be upset if he doesn't get a supporting actor nod, or at least a push around Oscar time.
Yeah,
he might not actually even get the nomination, but at least if his name is getting tossed out there, because the fact that he didn't get nominated for Big Lebowski, you could get my wife to rant about that for a good 45 minutes.
Rightfully so.
It is a travesty, to be fair, and he's gone on. But like I said, keeping that in mind, there's really no reason to keep King Ralph.
Yeah.
There's nothing redeeming about it that makes it a necessary thing to have in my collection. So I do think that this might be our very first goodbye. Sorry, King Ralph.
Oh no, but I agree 100%. I don't think there was any big laughs. Even watching it a half hour ago, I still am like, what was a good part that I remember something that I really loved?
Like I said, even the things that I feel like were the crux of the movie that should have been the funniest things, which I could almost pick out the moments that were probably in the trailer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's some jokes, but there's no belly laughs. There's no real big, and like I said, with no good character stuff to really hang your hat on. It's just a real by the numbers, bland, just you know, nothing.
It's a bummer
movie,
too, because
you know?
it's great actors doing a great job. I mean, they're doing
Right.
a good job, but
Absolutely.
everything else around it is kind of a bummer, and it is like a fish out of water. But you don't.
Yeah,
That
the
never
premise
really
isn't,
goes.
and the premise isn't terrible or anything. And
Yeah.
it's like I don't think. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Definitely like this vid and subscribe to the unofficial Fan Fights channel. Watch the other shows, Fan Friction. Watch Odd Shape Panel. And keep it tuned here because we're gonna keep going.
Keep pumping out these videos, no matter how many people seem to be less and less interested each week.
No, yeah. Until
don't
my
care.
wife, until me opening the link on my wife's YouTube account is the only view we get. But we're gonna keep doing it.
Because I'm not watching these. I'm not one of the views.
You have to, you edit them, so you watch them like 10 times.
I've
by the
seen
time they
these
come out.
episodes more than anybody else ever has or ever will.
Absolutely. And I can't stand to look at myself most times, so once I've recorded something, I don't go back to it. But to be fair, I will just let it play and not watch it, just to get the views. You know, I'm not proud. I'm not a proud man.
Inflate those numbers.
That's right. You can find us both on Twitter. Some of us more active than others.
Some of us almost shouldn't even
Some of
have
us-
Twitter.
Some of us forget
What's
they
the-
have Twitter all the
what's the
time.
point?
Once a week. I'm flat out calling this guy out on Twitter. Nothing. No response. 3 days later. it's
Oh,
like,
hey,
I
I
like
got
that.
Twitter. Yep, that's how often I look
Don't you get a
at it.
notification on your phone right away at that moment? I do.
Speaking of Twitter, make sure to give a specific shout out to our friends who have recently done some artwork for the show.
Absolutely. Now you're gonna put me on the spot. I don't know their Twitter handle.
At Miss Movies is one. I know.
she didn't do that. I do like
at Miss
Jeannine.
Jeannine.
Yeah, Jeannine Devine.
Yeah, Jeannine Devine and Alex.
H Weird. Is that it? Oh man, you're gonna make me. Now you're gonna make me feel bad.
Hey, that's all right. Brian doesn't remember, but I'll flash them across the bottom and
Well, I
say
know their
a
names,
special
Jeannine and
name.
Austin.
No,
I know
there you
their
go. It's not
actual
good to. You don't
names,
need to
but
have
I
their
just can't remember
handles.
their Twitter handles because like you only have to type in a part of it for it to come up,
Yeah.
and you just push
It's
it.
just seconds after he berated me for my Twitter behavior.
Maybe if you were more active, you would remember their names. I don't know. Anyway, at Hurst
at the drugsman.
At the Drunksman, hashtag DVD Bunker. Tell us why we should have kept King Ralph in the bunker. Why, sell me on King Ralph if you can.
But I don't think you can. Watch it yourself.
Somebody would have
before
to
you
watch
try.
King Ralph first, and that ain't never gonna happen.
If you want us to send you King Ralph so you can watch it.
Oh, I forgot that I'm hoarding the one copy of King Ralph that exists, so nobody else is gonna
You're
be
gonna
able to
give
watch
it away. It's gonna be one of those rare, shitty movies that you can't imagine is worth thousands of
I
dollars.
have to look up and see what they're asking for this thing on Amazon before I start talking about sending it away.
I bet they're asking you to take them. Is what they're asking on Amazon.
You get a free copy with your order today. You get a free copy of King Ralph.
Every time I fucking buy some on Amazon, you sure you don't want another free copy of King Ralph?
The last time I bought something from Amazon, King Ralph was actually used to protect his like packaging peanuts.
Just
It's
old
like,
King Ralph DVDs.
Old DVDs were shoved in there to keep the box from getting shifty. Do we have anything else to say? Thanks to Ron and Google Eye Platypie for our music.
Thanks to everybody that watches. Keep watching. Keep giving us likes.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
feedback. Always with the feedback. If you love the show, I don't want to hear from you if you hate it. I don't care.
Yeah, we don't give a shit.
Don't care about
I barely care if you like it. So, anyway, thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.